Why do you think that so few young enter the automotive trade? Cranking engines. And I happen to know the person here, and we actually work together. And both of us probably were born with a wrench in our hand, and we were just unique people. No question, I was going to be fixing something when I was young. I was building small block Chevys before I was got a driver's license. It was very clear to me what I wanted to do. You can't go from I just like cars and I can change my oil and hang brake pads. I want to go in the industry and not go to school. Now, both myself and cranking engines here taught at the community college level. And that's a 2-year associate degree, which is a great place to start. I really think if you just jump in there and go figure it out, it's like jumping out of a plane with a parachute. You only got a certain amount of time to figure it out. You just have to be realistic. You could do this 20 years ago or 15 years ago, but now that a car used to be electrical, everything is DC electricity. You move things by a little solenoid, and you had switches and buttons, and now you have level electronics that switches an input to a control module, which then gets into data networks, and you connect the wrong wire at the wrong time, and you're blowing out control modules. And there's a big chasm between I want to work on cars I'll say as a teenager, or if you're high school or a couple of years out, like I want to go work on cars. You really need to figure out the right way to do it. And I'm a big advocate on a 2-year associate degree in a community college because typically you're only in school half a day. So you go to school and the state supported, meaning the taxpayers are paying a large chunk of your education. Most states you can probably come in less than 15,000, probably less than 10 or 12, but it's very affordable. There's tremendous amounts of grants and loans, and cranking engines here taught in one of the OEM programs. So what you do, there's Ford, GM, Honda, Toyota, T10. A lot of manufacturers have programs in the community college system. So you're actually using the curriculum from the manufacturer. Say GM ASEP, you're actually using the GM training material. You have to work co-op for money at the GM dealer. You don't have to go find the job. They're going to put you in the job. So in 2 years later, you've got highly credentialed within the manufacturer's training program. You're way up the ladder towards being a master tech. You made 2/3 of the way there, and you're working. You don't have to find a job. You're working a minimum, I think it's around 20 hours a week. I was in the Honda Pack program when I retired, and I had guys working 30, 40 hours a week and just knock it out of the park. A lot of them want to go from a gearhead to a tech and skip the education side. And then some pick the wrong education track. It's called the Automotive Career Guide. It's actually 4 units pulled out of my larger course, but this is a career guide. It tells you the types of shops you can work in, the types of training programs, certification, and careers. This one, which is something I want to lay on you, is private for profit schools. Essentials course has 70 lessons, and each lesson starts off like this table of contents. Here we go. Private for profit cost. Cranking engines. Here we go. This is every campus of every private for profit program that's out there that I'm aware of. Lincoln Tech Institute, LTI, NASCAR Tech, Universal Tech, and WIO Tech. This is every single campus. This is the location, credit hours, actual time completion in months, the cost. This is if you don't need lodging. That's if you do need lodging. Lincoln Tech in Nashville, Tennessee, $58,791. That's if you got a place to stay for the program. 80 grand if you don't. How about NASCAR Tech? Look at this, 53-1 student to faculty ratio. So you got 53 students to 1 instructor. It surprisingly is less than some of these other locations. So it's based on the cost of living. 50 grand and 60 grand. So instead of going to community college, state supported, and now I'm paying what I thought would be double or maybe triple. But yeah, it's great. That's what the recruiter told me when it came to my high school automotive program. Then I end up with this debt, and most of them don't end in the industry. Credit transfer. And I can't teach an automotive program at a community college that's a associate degree because I've got credits that can't even be transferred to get associate degree. So how can I teach associate degree if what I've just spent $50,000, $60,000 on doesn't give me credentials to even teach in my local community college? This is also on my lesson towards the bottom, credit transfer. It shows all the statements. It says in most cases will not. It will not. And actually, I taught at another community college where I was 15 miles from one of the major for-profit campuses. And I'd have these guys that live local that could come to the program I taught in for 12, 15,000 and had a 2-year associate degree, and they would get sucked into the for-profit campus, which was relatively close, within 20, 30 miles. And then they pay the initial chunk of money to get started and realize in 1 month in that's not for them. They want to come transfer to a community college and North Carolina system. And so they had a guy come in and says, I'd not been teaching for 3 months. I wasn't certain. The guy comes skipping in and says, I want to check into transferring from school down here. I said, well, I'm so sure about that. You need to go down the boss 3 doors down and see what. He comes back, it looked like he just lost his best friend. I said, come on in, what happened, man? He said, well, I found out I started spent $10,000 walking the front door. And I found out within 2 weeks this is not what I thought I was getting into. They're working on cars cut in half. They weren't doing live projects. Studying clutches. You can't put your clutch in your car. You're going to be, it just wasn't what he thought it was going to be. It was not the best track. Then he found out that none of what he did could transfer. Typically in the community college system, you start in the fall to start the next cycle to get in the program. But he said, I'm done. I'm done. So that guy never went in the industry. He might have been a good tech. Cranking engine, just ask about why a few people entered the trade. But there's some very successful tracks. And I'll wrap up with this on this topic, and I'll stay here and answer some more questions. But cranking engine worked in the OEM. I know he had plenty of students scattered all across the fruited plains, particularly in North Carolina. They went through his OEM program, worked the dealer. They're everywhere. They're just very successful and live an American dream. And in most cases, their cost to go to school is absorbed very quickly because they're working literally full time. They don't have to work 40, but a lot of guys are working 30, 40 hours right till they start. And they're working, in the summer, they go in and they don't have to be going to school to also work there. I mean, they get schools that have them out for a summer semester. If that's the way your classes are, they still working at the dealer. They got a dealer working as long as they want to work. Ask me anything. I see more people in the room. If you got a question, throw it on me. We'll